Speaking of Assange, he is still living in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. The seemingly intractable battle between Ecuador and Britain over Assange has brought a spotlight on the dangerous path whistleblowers tread in exposing abuses of state power. Now, one of the people behind this, no stranger to conflict when it comes to fighting injustice carried out by state powers, is the Spanish jurist Baltasar Garzón. And in an exclusive interview with RT, Garzón explained why he thinks Assange is, quote, worth defending. Here's Sarah Firth with more.
He revealed a little bit about this ongoing battle for justice for Julian Assange. Of course, the WikiLeaks founder remains holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy here in London in Knightsbridge, and no real end in sight at the moment for this diplomatic standoff. Ecuador remains very, very firm that were Julian Assange to be extradited, that would put his human rights at very real risk. At the same time, the UK have said they're not going to grant Julian Assange free passage, and that if he sets foot outside the Ecuadorian embassy, he could be arrested for breaching his bail conditions. So just where does that leave him? Well, in the interview with RT, Baltasar Garzón, Assange's lawyer, said that they are going to continue to fight what he termed a terrible injustice.
It's clear that Ecuador granted Julian Assange political asylum because he was facing terrible injustice. He exercised his fundamental right, and we think that this right needs to be defended. At this point, we consider it prevalent. A legal solution is possible if both the UK and Ecuador go to the International Court of Justice, whose ruling they're bound to obey.
Now remember, Julian Assange has never actually been charged. He's wanted for questioning in Sweden over rape and sexual assault allegations. Now, one of the biggest criticisms that are levelled at Julian Assange is that his bid for asylum and Ecuador granting him asylum is viewed very much as trying to evade justice. Now, his lawyer tells us that he's more than ready to go there, he's more than ready to face the questioning, as long as he's been given a guarantee that once he was in Sweden that he'd face extradition to the US, and they have never received those guarantees.
Julian Assange told Swedish prosecutors that he's ready to cooperate, ready to be questioned, to submit himself to other procedures, but only if he's guaranteed that it would not lead to a more complicated case, in which his right to freedom of speech and information would be violated.
Now, as we said, Julian Assange and his legal team have always maintained that there is a very real fear here that were he to be extradited to Sweden, that there he could face a further extradition on to the US, where for some of the crimes that he could potentially be accused of, for espionage, for his work with WikiLeaks, that carries the death penalty in the US. So very serious concerns there that his lawyer makes note to in the interview.
I do not think Mr. Assange is a spy. All he did was exercise his right to freedom of information. He received and shared it. I'm much more surprised that there's been no investigation into the glaring crimes documented in those leaked reports featuring US interference, with issues that have absolutely no relation to either national security or the safety of American citizens or defense.
Both sides, of course, very, very eager to find some form of resolution, but just when and how this will come remains extremely uncertain. Indeed, his lawyer told RT there is no time limit to resolve this situation, so it looks like this one could be set to run and run. But you can catch the full interview with Julian Assange's lawyer, Baltasar Garzón, exclusively on RT tomorrow.
And that was RT correspondent Sarah Firth.